what pressures did you feel growing up to overachieve?
Well, I'm Asian. I'm an only child. So everything rested on me. But you know what? Honestly, I didn't feel pressure to overachieve. It was just basically like, like my plans never deviated from what my parents wanted. So it kind of worked out. Like there was never a question. Like it's like I'm going to graduate high school. I'm going to go to university. I'm going to get a job. And I will work. And then I will die. That's the Asian way. uh, so yeah, it just kind of that's all I never felt like a pressure to overachieve. I also never really liked the term overachieve, right? It didn't make sense. Like if you achieved it, you achieved it, right? You didn't achieve more than what you were capable, because if you achieved it, you're clearly capable of it. Like I think people can definitely underachieve. I know quite a few of those people, but I don't know. I mean, basically, like Asian parenting. I think the hallmark of Asian parenting is they just make you work really hard, even if even if you don't like the thing you're doing, and then you get good at it. And then when you get good at it, you understand what it feels like to be good at a thing and reap the rewards of excellence, and then it makes you want to be more good at things. And so, yeah, that's basically, whenever I'm doing anything, it's just I just want to be good at it. So like, but yeah, there's never like oh, my parents are like, you got to do this, you got to do that. I mean, they weren't thrilled when I started doing comedy as a career, but I'd already done all the other things, right? I was already a good Asian for like 40 years before that, okay? Like I have 2 degrees in engineering, and, I spent like 15, 20 years like having an actual career. Like I ran the division of a company for a while. So I did all that, living the second half my way.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I have like a similar story. I just kind of naturally overachieved anyway. So the pressure didn't totally come from my parents. It probably came from me more than from my parents. I would say though that like, the pressure to overachieve wasn't evenly distributed within my family. Like we are compartmentalized, and in some ways it's really harsh because very early on I was anointed as the quote unquote smart one. So I was the one. I didn't have to do any chores.
Oh, you got the brains and the looks, man.
I'm just gonna go with it because I love to be humble, but I don't disagree. But so it was bad on like say maybe my brother because he was not seen as the smart one right away, so he got all the chores and there was like inner resentment. So I'm not sure how it is in other Asian families, but for us it was more like if they saw potential then they'd really like invest in you. Like when I was in high school, it was like, don't get a job, don't, don't even clean your room. We'll do everything as long as you get good grades. That's all you have to worry about. But I would say I probably felt more pressure from the Laos community more than I did from my parents because at that time I grew up. I know I talk about this every episode, but I grew up in the ghetto.
we each have our things we talk about. Your ghetto. Your brand is ghetto.
Murder capital of Canada, Winnipeg. And thing is, the Lao community, we were all refugees, war refugees, living in poverty. So, there were quite a few people from the Lao community who were joining gangs, and we were always in the news for the worst things, like literally for like murder, for like stabbing 80-year-old women, for like stealing a wheelchair for no reason. And so because I was always in the newspaper for like winning like really ridiculous competitions, like the website design championship, the Winnipeg typing championship, just like crazy ridiculous shit. So I started to feel pressure because it was like my community ever since I was like maybe, early elementary sort of trouted me out there. At all these like whenever they could, they would trout me out there as like this exam community isn't like just totally corrupt. Like when we would have like Lao New Year or Thai New Year, we knew there'd be like government officials, so they would like kind of parade me around. And then even with my friends,
you were the little chess champion in the Joy Luck Club.
Yeah,
pretty much.
was you. Everybody's walking around with a magazine with your face on and being like, look what Vong did. Typing champion.
You know what? It was so true because my friends, they would actually tell me that their parents had like clippings of me from the newspaper that they kept in like scrapbooks. And like they were forced to go to the schools I went to because I was like setting a good example. So it was like all this like crazy pressure. And even from communities that weren't even mine. Like I won the Filipino scholarship for like fully paid post education. And I felt so guilty because like half my school was Filipino, and I was like, you couldn't give it to one of the actual Filipinos. Um, so yeah, so that was sort of my journey. And unlike I forget her name from the Joy Luck Club. Like unlike her, where she kind of shrunk. For me, that's where a lot of my personality came from. Was like I was not willing to be ashamed of being successful. So very early, and I know it sounds like kind of dumb, but like when you're from the ghetto and everybody is, half her siblings are like drug dealers and such. It's not cool to be like the smart one, but I would never shrink. I was like, no, I was like, I remember people tried to bully me in like grade 2, and I was like, listen, just because you're dumber than me doesn't mean we can't be friends. And like, I know that sounds really harsh, but like where it came from, like you have to go that hard or you are just going to be the geeky kid that gets a beat. So I would say that's where my personality comes from. Cause I was just like, I am not going to like whittle away because you feel insecure because I'm just that awesome. Uh, and then I would say where it helped me later in life was actually when I came out of the closet. I was already so used to not being ashamed of who I was that when I came out, I was like, guess what? Here's another thing. And I think it helped my community because it wasn't just like a random gang member, somebody like coming out. It was like, you know, like they knew me. They had been like holding me up as this example in the community for so long. So for them, like, so once I came out, if they were just to flip and be like, oh, just because he's gay, he's totally evil, like that'd be like so ridiculous. So I think it kind of helped.
That's not unheard of that happens, but that's great that it didn't happen to you.
So I would say that's sort of my journey of overachieving. It was just I was just naturally the best at everything. Which like listen, this is humility is not one of my
Nope.
not one of it's because of the way I grew up. People wanted to make me feel ashamed, and I just decided, literally in grade 2, I'm not feeling ashamed for my success. Humility is not, and this is why sometimes you see like NBA players, and you're like, why are they like just so bragging all the time? It's because to get out of there, you have to be that egotistical, like you have to be that unashamed of your success, because like it's the
This explains all of rap. I mean, it's like, I'm rich. I bought this. I bought that. I whatever. You know what? Like, honestly, if some like middle-aged white dude was saying that to me, I'm like, oh, you son of.
But is that just like a fake it till you make it mentality? Like, so even if you don't actually have that confidence, exuding it or, I don't know, portraying it will eventually make you believe that you have it? Kind of like smile even when you're not happy and you'll have better days type of thing. Do you think it was kind of like that?
No, because I would say in the ghetto, it's like the worst thing you can be called is fake, like not genuine. Like
it could be a real one. I just learned that term because I'm old.
Like people can like call you not nice and call you racist and call you anything. It's never like a bad insult. But if they're like you're a fake ass bitch, that's like the number one insult. And like so there's no fake until you make
You
it
just
like,
want to be an ass bitch, but you don't want to be a fake ass bitch.
exactly. They can tell the difference if you're genuinely confident in who you are or if you're trying to fake it till you make it. So I would say that's definitely not a good strategy. But like I actually am that conceited.
Oh,
You can back it up though. It's important that you can back it up. Like I think, like I feel like I'm pretty confident as well. Although I am the opposite of you, where I'm not like, I don't brag in the same way. I let other people do it for me. But but yeah, no, I think the confidence comes from knowing you've put in the work.
Yeah.
True.
I think that's where, for me anyways, like confidence comes from, like I know I put in the work to be good at what I'm good at. I'm not good at everything. And when I'm not good at something, I'm not confident because I have not put in the work, I have not prepared, and I know that, oh shit, if I get through this, it's going to be luck.
Right.
But I generally try to not to put myself in those situations because I'm aware enough of what I can and cannot do that I should not be caught unawares. But yeah, that's, I think that's really at the end of the day. I mean, we're Asian, right? We put in the work, and I think that's the thing. Like, again, like I think that's the thing my parents really gave me was my work ethic. Whereas just like they're like, look, do whatever you want to do, but you got just whatever you do, work hard at it.
Yeah.
I think too, like there's two sides of it. Like I'm very confident and egotistical because I believe in myself and I actually do think I have that talent. And like you said, I work hard for it. But as both of you know, like I'm also very critical of myself. Like even like the early episodes of the Rice podcast, like when we were going over notes, like I shared literally, here's where I sucked, here's where I don't finish sentences before I start the next sentence. I'm looking away. So it's like, it's not just one-sided. It's like, I'm also extremely critical of myself as well. And sometimes people don't see that part. But
that's
I feel
the perfectionism. That's the high standards that we have, right? And I don't know if that's because of the overachieving, whatever it is, but like I had the same thing. Like I'm sure, like back in school, like I was a nightmare to work in on group projects, right? Because I always felt like my standards were higher. Like I'm sure I'm still a nightmare now. Like it's just like you, Vong, right? You want to control everything because you want to make sure everything's done to the level that you want it to be done at, because this is it's your reputation, right? And it's face. It's all about face.
Yeah, speaking of group projects, there's a funny joke that I came across a few years back. It was a quote that said, when I die, I want the people that I did group projects with to lower me into the ground so they can let me down one last time.
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
So let's head on over to Jennifer, and what's your experience been in your life on feeling the pressure to overachieve?
Well, it's pretty much on par with you and Leonard, but you guys talk about how you kind of naturally overachieved. I think this naturalness is just this innate work ethic or drive in Asian culture, because if you look at history, that's almost, systemic to our culture, the way racism is just systemic in the police force, right? Like it's just there, like before time. And we take for granted that it exists, but it gets passed on from generation to generation. If you look at our family's history, what our parents had to do to get us to, or what their parents had to do to leave Asia, China, Laos, to come to Canada. If you trace it back, like all that stuff really does get passed down. Like you look at the Vietnam War, you look at what happened to the Korean woman during World War II, all that, like you can see it in today. Like a lot of the Korean women that I meet have this, I'm not saying it's all from the comfort woman situation when, the Japanese soldiers like took 80% of them during World War II and made them sex slaves, or even the Vietnam War and how like a lot of downtown Vietnamese people in Toronto are gangsters because of that, like, or why people are like, oh, they complain about Black people feeling entitled. And then you trace it back and it's like, fuck, of course they would be. Like, look what they went through, right? Like history and slavery. So I think this work ethic thing, this struggle has always been there. Like if you look at China, 5,000 years of history and the Great Wall, like that, the seventh wonder of the world, they created that, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think
the Asians, they don't overachieve. They just achieve. They said they're going to build a wall. They build a wall. Not like America. America is underachieving. They're going to build a wall. I don't see no fucking wall.
Projects diminish. They'll just keep telling lies and, I don't know, taxing, putting
America is the fake ass
aluminum
in this scenario.
I don't know. So growing up, I think that it was just expected that there's this notion that you have to pay your parents back, right? Like they put you on this earth, they feed you, so you better work hard and make money so that you can take care of them when they're older. There's this whole mentality of respecting your elders. So that got drilled into me early on. But also in school, like, I don't know, I was competitive. I wanted to be number one. And my father had this theory that, like, hey, if your kids are doing well in school, just like in the movie that we're going to review today, if they're doing well in school, it would, like, being good at academics was my beard for being like a trashy party girl. You know what I mean? Like,
is that why you did well in school though? Like, because you're like, oh, I need to maintain this identity.
No,
it was just like a nice bonus that I was like, nah, I can just be a degenerate because I have straight A's.
Exactly. It was like, you know what? My dad thinks that I'm good. If I can maintain this, I enjoy having this sense of power and control. Like, it gave me the control that I didn't have over my, like, messed up Jerry Springer family. So I was addicted to that element of, I can put in this many hours. I can color my ass off and, like, get close to 100% in a subject and be like, and get this attention from my teachers and my classmates if I put that work into it, if I go that extra step. And that was addictive to me. It wasn't even like the education that I was getting. It was just like, let's make this a game. Like collecting, you know how when you're a kid and you collect stars, like that reward system, that feedback, that's what it was like for me. And that allowed me to, like, drop ecstasy at 14 and, like, you know, go to hang out with Asian gangster boyfriends and, like, go to raves.
Explains so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Leonard. Of course it does.
No, the ecstasy, just the ecstasy at 14. I was like, God damn, like, that fucks up a brain, my friend.
God, I know. Well, thank you.
Like, how much ecstasy did you drop? Because, like, I did a lot of ecstasy in my 20s, and it fucked me up for a while.
I didn't do a lot, but, like, you know, it was so hot during the days. Like, I went to government. Remember when government was open in Toronto?
Nothing good ever happened at government. Government with a U, by the way. Was it? I think, I don't know. It was horrible. I'm so glad that place is gone. Could you imagine right now, if government was still open, like, how much COVID would be coming out of that fucking place?
Light shows in your face. Get
Horrible.
Your hand away from me.
For those who are listening, government is this club, I guess we'll say, in Toronto. Yeah. And it's like, it's near the waterfront. It's like on like Queen's Quay, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just, yikes. It
was like a cesspool of every oily body degenerate from, like, the early 2000s.
Like, seriously, you just go in the middle, you take a spin around, you'll be just like, okay, well, that person that person's definitely in a K-hole. That person is like, I don't know what the hell they're on. It's just like, it was nonsense.
Just sort of, you know, I'm veering off of perfectionism for just a little bit. You know, a related topic is like rivalries, right? Because sometimes you're trying to overachieve, you're trying to be the best, but sometimes somebody else wants to be that too. So, like, sort of, how did that play into your life growing up? Let's start with Jennifer.
Yeah, I was super competitive. Like, I would have, like, good friends, and I would, every time we got a test back or a report back, I would compare my marks and, like, secretly hate them for doing better than me. Like, that was like, and I felt so bad because, like, this was my friend, but I was also super jealous. Like, why are they beating me in English lit? You know, or like, I was really, really competitive, and it's affected me in my daily life now to the point where it's like this hamster wheel that I can't get off.
You know? The old hedonic treadmill.
Totally.
Just chasing that carrot.
And I don't know.
It's like, rough, man. You got to get off that.
Oh, see, you're
especially in the industry you're in. You
yeah,
so bad with mental health.
I know, and it's really led to my demise. But I think I'm on a better path now. Like, good. Therapy has helped for sure. But I still can't get over the fact that if I die before I achieve my goals and dreams, it will mean that my life is worthless. And it's a very sad mentality to have. Like, I look at...
You keep moving the goalposts, I assume, right? You achieve a thing, and then you're like, oh, but now I got to get this other thing. And if I die before I get that other thing, oh, no. Like, I mean, it never ends.
Look, Leonard, I know it's the secret to, like, it's not going to make me happy, but yet I cannot stop. Like, they're like, I don't know how to put it. Like, my sister, right? I compare myself to her a lot, even though we're, like, in very different kind of fields. She's a filmmaker. She has won, like, 2 Peabodys. There's huge news coming up for her. She just got elected to be vice chair of the Directors Guild of Canada. And I look at her accolades and I feel so illegitimate because all my stuff was in Asia. And I feel like even the world today, like, everyone puts North American success on a pedestal. Like, I look at you, Leonard. I'm like, oh my God, he's done JFL, he's done Winnipeg Comedy Festival. I've only done my shitty Comedy Central Asia, and Asia is the asterisk on it. Even though CGTN, like my old channel, was like the largest broadcaster in the world. I know when I come back to North America, people look down on it because it's China and it's communist. And so I feel like I'm never going to be able to play catch up now that I'm back in Toronto and reestablishing myself. And that it's not just a career wise, and I blame feminism for that, but as a woman, you feel that so much more because you're like, no, I got to be still the perfect freaking tiger mom on top of being like the success that I was destined to be because I was valedictorian twice. And that's what my family, that's what the people that didn't believe in me, that I need to prove them wrong. Like, that's the drive. Like, I need to validate my worth by being somebody. And it's a very sad cycle to be in. And I am in it, but I'm realizing that, you know what, that's not, when you're on your deathbed, it's not how hard you work necessarily or what job you had. It's like the people you loved. Were you loved, and how much did you love? Like, that's the number one people in what they say when they're in hospice. So I don't know.
Oh, man. You need a hug from Robin Williams right now.
No, I'm jealous of you, Leonard. I am. I'm jealous of you. I'm envious of you. I'll just say that right now.
I mean, my life is great. So so you should be. Everything's great.
You're so smart. Like, every time, like, our friend Emily is like, oh, Leonard's such a great writer. I'm like, what about me?
Hey, Emily's also a very great writer. Don't sell her short either.
No, but I mean comedy. You know what I mean? Like, she is a great writer, and I'm jealous of her too, that she's a journalist and I'm not anymore. So I'm jealous of everybody.
Yeah, you know what the funny thing is, like, I grew up in very competitive environments, not just in academics, but in sports as well. So I pretty much, like, before COVID started, I was playing sports like 6 times a week. Like, any sport you can imagine, I was playing it in high school. I won a bunch of city championships in different sports and such. But for me, like, even though I grew up in competitive environments, or maybe because I grew up in competitive environments, I've got a pretty healthy outlook. Because number one, you mix the competitiveness with just my giant ego, and it's hard for me to be jealous of anybody in Toronto because it's like, so let's say comedy for an example. And I actually had this conversation with Jennifer before about, like, different people, having their different specials on different networks. And for me, I was like, listen, of all the people who are doing all these things, JFL and all that, like, I know a ton of people who've done every festival, got every credit in Canada that you can get, and they're living with their mom, or they're living in an apartment with 6 other comedians, which is cool. Like, I get it. That's like the starving artist life. But for me, I'm like, I'm not competing against people in Canada. Like, for the Chinese New Year show, like, I wasn't competing against, who are the Toronto people doing for their specials, what's CBC doing. I was like, I'm competing with Chris Rock. I'm looking at these Netflix fucking specials. What is Chris Rock doing? What is, like, the new Eddie Murphy thing doing? What did Ali Wong do? Like, honestly, I'm so egotistical. I'm not even thinking about people here. Like, I'm trying to get to the top. I'm not even worried about people getting their thing here. Because for me, the only credit that matters to me is selling out Madison Square Garden, selling out Massey Hall.
Wow.
I don't care what festival. Like, for me, I'm, like, thinking so far beyond that.
By
the
way, this is where Jennifer and I are learning that we were competing with Chris Rock during that New Year's special. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, but
you're right. I was like, oh shit, I was competing with Chris Rock? That was my competition? Oh, man.
But, like, if you take a look at, like, the production values, the lighting, the setup.
No, it was incredible. Yeah. When it comes out, everybody has to go watch it. And this comes back down to Vong's perfectionism, right? Because Vong wants things to be a certain way, and I think that's awesome. And I love working with Vong and then I'm just like, I just should do this myself because I'm just going to have to fix what you're doing. I don't have to worry about that with Vong. It's so nice.
Like I said, I'm trying to get to the top, and I'm egotistical enough to think that I belong there. And so anything that anybody does in Toronto, doesn't really, I'm not even looking down on them, because for me, the other side of it too is, because I grew up in sports, I sort of have, like, this weird mentality of like, the biggest sports scenes, people break out together. Like if you think of whenever a country wins, fastest man in the world, the 100 meters, they almost always win the silver as well. And they almost always win the team gold as well. It's very difficult to break through on your own. And even in comedy, with SCTV, Saturday Night Live, all these things, like when there's a really strong scene that's created, then everybody kind of breaks through. So it's like, for me, if Leonard becomes a superstar, if Jennifer becomes a superstar, if Cassie becomes a superstar, I'm like, great, now I know a superstar. I'm not like, oh no, they made it before me. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick up the phone and be like, okay, bitch, let's do some shit together. So for me, I don't really have that mentality. And then I'll just say one final thing, so I'm kind of going on long as well. But like, I'm also good with compartmentalizing competition. Because, there are sometimes, as much as I try and avoid direct competition with people, sometimes there is only one spot and you're competing with somebody else. And for me, I remember a good example of this was when I grew up, I used to play badminton, like for the provincial championships. And in the semifinals, I played my cousin. And I beat him like 21-0. And he was crying and all this. And then his mom came over and she was like, you couldn't give him a point? Like, this
gotta earn that point. What do you mean give him a point? This is not how this world works. Come on, man. Toughen up, cousin.
So for me, in the middle of a competition, I will like be cutthroat. I will like step on your throat until you bleed. But then afterward, we just went out and like got some pho and it was totally cool. So I'm very good with like going hard at something, but then like flipping it off too.
The game is the game, man. Like but I think you're absolutely right. Like you need a rival. Like man, I watch all this like Japanese anime, and they're very big on like rivals. Like that's how like people, especially like the sports animes. Although I watched this one, it's called Hikaru no Go, and it's about this like boy who's like haunted by a Go master. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So good. But it's all about rivalry, right? So it's like Tuya and then Hikaru, and then so these two are like rivals, and they make each other better. But I think what's important is that you're not competing against that person. That person is somebody who is there to help you compete against yourself. Right. And I think if that's the healthy way to do it, like if you're just like, oh, I got to beat the shit out of this dude. What happens if you beat him? Well, then you just move on to the next one. And then you just have to keep finding new people to beat.
Yeah.
Then it's One Punch Man. You get real bored.
One thing I'll make a confession to both of you and to everybody who is on Race, so also Ron Jossel and Cassie Chow. The reason why I wanted you guys on there was a bit of a competitive fuel, but out of respect, because I knew I would be so worried about the lighting, about the directing, about the ticket sales and all this stuff. But I knew if I had to go on stage with the four of you, if I didn't bring my absolute best, because I respect you so much, I would be the forgotten one. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be the forgotten ass bitch on my own show. So I was like, I need to stack this show with the people I respect the most, because then I can't get distracted. Because if I get distracted and not bring my best, I'm going to look like a damn fool. Because like I said, that's like a murderer's row. Like obviously Ron, obviously Cassie, and the both of you. Like if I don't bring it, like and my friends and family, and Asians, like they don't care if they came to see you. If you suck, they will boo you off the fucking stage. Like they don't care. They'll be like, yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, they'll be like, yeah, the Jennifer girl was good, but why did you suck, Vong? Like, what the hell? You should have put her last. Like, they'll like literally say that shit to me. So I knew. So like, it was out of respect for the four of you, because I was like, if I don't put the absolute fucking best, then I'm just gonna get drowned in the other parts. And I could not. Like, I was literally shaking before I went on. I was like, I better deliver, because these bitches delivered and this crowd is hot and I do not want to be the forgotten bitch.
Forgot.
That was a really good crowd. That was insane.
Yeah, that was an amazing night. Like, really, it was perfect. Thank you for, yeah.
So just as a follow up to our wrapping up our main topic now, but the concert film for Rice that was taped at Glenn Gould's studio. We're still working on post-production. We kind of just slowed it down because we were going to get it ready for festival submissions this May, but because the world kind of went bananas. We're going to wait until the next cycle which is basically next May, to put it in for submissions. But yeah, hopefully it gets accepted into some of these festivals, and then we'll make our big screen debut, because honestly, that's my big dream, like to get all of us on the big screen.